This episode is brought to you by Galileo FX, the world's top trading bot. Galileo uses advanced algorithms and customizable strategies to enhance efficiency, reduce errors, and operate 24/7, providing a significant advantage over traditional manual trading. Go to galileofx.com to learn how you can start automating your trades today. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode here of the BlockHash podcast. Today we have an exciting guest, Burnt Banksy here, founder of Xion, to talk about how Xion is the first walletless L1 blockchain purpose-built for consumer adoption, what that means, what they're working on here in 2025. So Burnt Banksy, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here. How's it going?
It's going great. It's going great. What about yourself?
It's going great as well. It's been a
Love
good
it.
start to the week. To get things going, I'm sure people would love to know a bit more about yourself, your journey, your story. So how did you end up in Web3 and what sparked your interest?
Yeah, started out in Web3, was being in New York during consensus time and just kind of getting sucked in and drinking the Kool-Aid really early on. And then what kind of kept me here, my name is Burnt Banksy. My real name is Anthony, but I go by Burnt Banksy. About 4 years ago at this point, I bought a Banksy art piece, lit it on fire, and sold it as an NFT, which broke the record for highest price NFT sale. And then for all of 2021 was the highest price NFT sold on OpenSea. And so since then we raised about $36 million to make crypto completely disappear. And that's what Xion is today.
Was NFTs like it was most exciting for you that kind of got you involved, or was there anything in particular that kind of like ignited your interest?
I mean, I think that and you always, we'll probably get back to this in part of the conversation, but I think that this industry obviously started DeFi, right? Like Bitcoin was the first use case, and then DeFi, then you had like the Uniswaps of the world and the Sushi swaps and things like that, and Ethereum. And I would say that finance was the first application, and I think it's the one that's shown the most success. I think I've always been excited about finding new applications, and I think the most obvious first new application coming out of everything DeFi was NFTs.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when what was it, CryptoKitties first came out a
Yep,
long time ago.
I had, dude. I love CryptoKitties.
Punks and CryptoKitties, and how far we've come today. It's definitely evolved quite a bit.
Dude, I know. I mean, it's funny. Like I've lost punks in a hack. But at the time it was like whatever. But like then, like in 2021, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I was all into like the Decentraland and crypto
Yep.
voxels and like the metaverse side of the space and the virtual lands, and that was quite interesting for a while and had quite a traction. And I unfortunately lost a bunch of virtual land NFTs, clicking on the wrong bridging solutions. And
I was gonna say, like, I think that's such an interesting point that we don't really talk about a lot, like the sandboxes of the world, where it's just they had such a huge rise up, but I wonder why they didn't really come to fruition too much.
I think this is something we'll touch on too with Xion, but I think it's just for the average consumer, it's hard to get into this space, right? There's a lot of UI UX issues. I talk to people about this all the time. It's not as Web2 friendly yet. I know we're kind of inching closer to that, but even though there was that excitement and everyone was like, "Oh, virtual lands! I want virtual real estate! I want to jump on this trend," and it really bubbled up, but it fizzled out. I think just because of the complexity of it and the fact that fees were too high and there was no, I think real basis for the value of a lot of this virtual land in the market. There's nothing you could really do with it other than maybe some artistic expression or having it as like a fancy way to visit a website, but like virtually, I guess. But there wasn't like something else that was tangible to it. So I think that's part of why it fizzled off. I do see it coming back pretty strong, but it's going to take a little bit more of how can we tie some more tangible value to it and make it a lot easier for people to access. And I'm sure, probably similar line to what you're thinking.
So yeah, no, it's funny that you say that. I'm like, you pretty much just gave the Xion pitch for me. That's exactly what I mean. What we're building. I fully agree with everything that you just said. I think that it is way too confusing. I think that that's why decentralized social hasn't worked either. Like you can't have network effects when the friction is that high. And a lot of the network effects that was found in Web 2 isn't able to be found in Web 3 because of how difficult it is, and it shouldn't be.
Absolutely. So, cutting through the proverbial butter of confusion, how are you guys tackling this with Xion? I know that it says on your website you're the first walletless blockchain. Uh, why is that? And is that a key component towards working towards this goal?
Yeah, I think number one, it is a completely key component. I think we're going to look back in 5 years and we're going to say, we're going to look at the concept of wallets and understand how much they were truly holding us back. And there's like a whole history of wallets and why they existed, but at this point, it's just kind of legacy decisions. Um, and so being able to work in a smart contract account world allows for flexibility and effectively allows us the functionality to completely create a Web2 experience. Web like you can have embedded wallets, you can make like some wallets easier, but then you have interoperability problems. And so it's like once you look at it from a first principles perspective of saying, kind of walletless, it makes that jump so much easier. And the proof is just kind of in how easy it is to use.
So, tell me about some of the features here for Xion. Speaking of abstraction, I think you guys abstract away a lot of different things from prices, signatures, device, accounts, etc. Going walletless. What is the importance here of abstraction on chain, and why is that also important for Xion?
Did the research. I appreciate that a lot. It's so funny because like the whole thing is, we really just want a Web2 experience. We don't want people to know anything about crypto, and it's so difficult to kind of just sit here and be like, well, these are like pinpointing exactly what we solve because of how many issues there are genuinely in crypto. But you have like, you have signatures is something that no longer exists because we've separated identity from authentication. Um, accounts are kind of this, wallets kind of this aspect that we've abstracted away and now introduced this kind of accounts feature. And I think it's this complete first principles perspective that we frankly needed to take for quite some time. That I'm so happy that we're like in this position now. That we can just say, instead of saying like this is everything that we've solved for, it's like this is what the finalized product is, and it's beautiful, genuinely beautiful.
Absolutely. And is that particularly just consumer focused, or are you guys also like figuring out ways to abstract away some of that stuff for developers for like the tech stack side of things too?
Um, I think tech stack is definitely, it's chicken and egg, I would say, right? Like we want to focus on the users first, and then developers, quite honestly. But that is something that is on the roadmap, and what our kind of focus is now. Now that we've really built amazing onboarding tools for the users, it's now like, how can we get this as close to no code as possible, right? Like with the idea being Stripe, or sorry, not Stripe. Um, oh my god, I'm totally blanking on the actual uh website builder or whatever. It's just, I think the idea for everything is accessibility, whether that be starting with users and then going to kind of developers wanting a completely easy experience where anyone, technical and non-technical, can uh, interact.
Also, tell me a bit about the architecture of Xion too. I know that there's a topic of modularity these days, and chains being modular, and protocols, and making things, I think, more customizable and easier to use. Do you guys have any flexibility with the Xion architecture when it comes to programmability, customization, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, that is something that we work on a lot. Like we just worked with Eigenlayer, kind of on some ZK-TLS stuff, and so I think that there's going to be, and everything that we do, interoperability with kind of chain abstraction, like is extremely important. Like all in my mind, I just want products to exist in this industry. Um, and so the idea of modularity, like there's not going to be one chain to rule them all, and you need to be able to adapt very quickly. And so I'm a very big proponent that not only in modularity, but that there's going to be thousands of chains in the future, and just kind of positioning ourselves in that kind of right way.
That's a good question. Do you believe in a multi-chain ecosystem, or do you believe that there can be one or two or three chains to rule them all?
I'm multi-chain through and through, because I think you're always going to have specialization, and I think that that is going to be important. Like, I think the industry is way too early for that now, because, like as I said, like DeFi has shown itself to succeed, but unfortunately, I feel like outside of DeFi, there hasn't been a lot of success or long-term sustained success. I mean, you have Aave and Uniswap, who are very successful companies who make hundreds of $1 million in revenue, They are very successful. They have shown that DeFi works, but you can't really point to that and say, I mean, the only maybe OpenSea, but I don't even want to know what their revenue is. It's probably nowhere close to, it's probably nowhere close to Uniswap. But suffice to say, it's like there hasn't been that next evolution or that next use case to come out, and I think that when you start seeing a second one come, the third one's going to come even quicker, and then you're just going to absolutely start steamrolling. But I do think that you're going to have very like specific verticals, and then you're going to have app chains, and you're going to have L7s or something.
Speaking of this multi-chain ecosystem and having that in mind, how interoperable is Xion in terms of applications that are built on top of it? Can they communicate and interact outside the ecosystems to places like Ethereum or Solana or wherever? And does that include transferability of data between a lot of these different chains?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually something that we did a lot of work with back last summer. Um, we we call it chain abstraction effectively on the interoperability side, but since everything's a smart contract account, we can have a mirroring smart contract account on any chain, and have really seamless interoperability. And so, we took down IBC twice trying to do this just because of reaching load capacity, but able to do very seamless work where you don't even know that you're interacting with one chain, you don't even know you're interacting with two chains for Solana, AVAX, BNB, Injective. We did a bunch of them, and I think that for me, that's extremely important. And the only way that as an industry we grow is by growing together.
Absolutely. And here's the fun question too.
Oh, yeah.
What types of applications are you seeing being built, and do you imagine being built here on Xion? Or do they range from things like community to commerce to gaming to DeFi? Like, are they pretty broad?
I would say they're like decently specific, where like maybe a little gaming. Like, I think there's going to be gaming focused chains. Like, that's one area that we were kind of just talking about. But it's like, I think that the definition of what consumer crypto means will be defined on Xion. Um, and so it's very vague right now, right? It's community, it's this, it's that. But I think that with the tools that we have and the ability to onboard the actual, to say you're building for retail, but you're not able to access retail, you're not actually building for retail. So the thing about Xion, where we really want to go, is by actually building for retail, we can actually test out the hypothesis and experiments that'll come along with building for retail. And so that's what I would say. Like, the definition of crypto consumer applications will be defined on Xion, and that's my goal for this year, is to be like, okay, that's what consumer means.
Gotcha. Do you have any in particular that you can highlight as a good example or something that you like that you find really fascinating or that's getting some popularity?
There's so okay. I'll take each one. Popularity. There's one called EarnOS, which is probably the fastest growing. I think they launched like 2 weeks ago and have about 1 million users right now. Um, and they do
Pretty good
work with,
growth.
yeah, great growth. They do work with Uber and BMW and Temu and Minecraft and 150 other brands, and we work with them very closely. But they're trying to do, for the first time, like this kind of Web3 Google AdSense, and it's really exciting. And so it's like one of the cool. Also, like, they're doing something really cool where, like, very soon we've done 2 campaigns with Uber so far, but this kind of where this kind of leads is like with ZKTLS, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to link your Lyft or your Bolt or Go, any ride sharing app. And if you're a top rider there and you switch over to Uber, Uber will literally pay you. And this is one of those things which is like, okay, you can only do this with crypto, and you can only distribute $5 to 1 million people across the world with crypto. And so, and I like aspects like that, which is, hey, this isn't crypto for crypto's sake, but there is value in the crypto existing here.
Interesting. Is that a way to like help reward people for being a part of Uber and to like create some kind of like loyalty to the brand or some reward system?
In the first part, it is like the first part is like kind of loyalty, and then it's getting like attention and things like that. But it's the most direct marketing that you could possibly get of, hey, you're worth this much to us as a customer, we will pay you that.
No, that's fascinating. What are some other partnerships that you guys have that are similar to Uber that you guys are working on?
I believe that they're working on an interesting one, which is kind of similar, but it's I mean, the way that a lot of these work is like we run through three different ones, right? So the first one that we run with is kind of like a consumer or community activation program, and we did this with Uber about a year ago. And then after the community activation one, we then do kind of a sweepstakes one where this is what's kind of currently running right now, which is you log in with your Lyft or your Bolt or whatever, and you then get entered into a sweepstakes. And then the next is the one that I was just kind of talking about. And so the way that it works with a lot of the brands is like first, and what you kind of see now with like the BMWs and the Temus and a bunch of these other brands, I think we list a new one every day. Is we're starting on that first step of community activation, and then doing that then second step of ZKTLS and vampire attack on Web 2, only to then go kind of this direct third one right after that. So we've worked on the process with starting with Uber, and like Call of Duty and things like that. But now it's just kind of like taking that playbook and repeating it over and over, which is exciting.
Quick message from Galileo FX, the world's top trading bot. Galileo uses advanced algorithms, customizable strategies to enhance efficiency, reduce errors, and operate 24/7. They provide a significant advantage over traditional manual trading, which is a hassle to have to do on your own. So go to GalileoFX.com to learn how you can start automating all of your trades today. Now, back to the episode. Obviously, my background, like I mentioned earlier, like in NFTs and stuff, has been like primarily with like crypto voxels, Decentraland, Sandbox, stuff like that. I find it very fascinating. Do you imagine any applications on Xion that might be focused on the metaverse side of the space or in like virtual spaces or something that's kind of interactive in that sense?
We have a cool kind of it's we have a couple of cool things actually like that. I think that there was it was funny. I remember doing a interview with them in the metaverse, but it was like this really cool like um call it like I think like a metaverse spaces application kind of where complete 3D world, very Zion themed, where people can kind of come and meet and chat like typical typical metaverse bullshit. They were metaversing, but it was and I remember like they're like, oh, let's do an interview to kind of showcase this, and I was like, okay, you want to do Google Meet? And they're like, no, we'll do it on the fucking app. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes so much more sense. In addition to there's actually a couple of projects like that are coming out. In addition to the kind of couple of games that are coming out as well that are like, I would say the metaverse focus is like this aspect where it is kind of like MMO style, but then like kind of coming down to like more of a specific game, like a fighting game based off of like the lore of Zion, which I was just on the phone with the CEO yesterday, and we were just kind of talking about how what is the lore of Zion, and how can we make the community engaged in a way that like it's fun for everyone.
Absolutely. It's cool to see applications like this that really are involving of the community and get them kind of engaged.
Yeah.
Whether it's gaming, whether it's metaverse, even DeFi and NFTs, it's cool to see how a lot of these can have some confluence with each other. And I'd love to do a podcast in the metaverse. That's something that I'm working towards very slowly, trying to find the right medium for that. Again, it's something that doesn't have it's hard. It doesn't have a good UI experience. In my opinion, like it's one thing to put on a headset and jump in and throw around a virtual ball, but it's another to like record audio and video and have an environment and good bandwidth and everyone have the same accessibility. It's still a trick.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even like when we were doing our rehearsing of that. I don't know, but like midway through, like one of us crashed out for like 20 minutes. It was just like,
Yeah.
we won't include that, but
Yeah, that's the primary reason I'm still on StreamYard. It's very easy to use. But
yeah.
what's on your guys's roadmap for Zion here in 2025? What are some things that you're working on that you think people might be excited for? Maybe things in the ecosystem that people should keep an eye out for, or things you might be doing in terms of events, conferences, engagements. What should people know?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most interesting aspects is our plan for growth, and global growth, I should say specifically, where we want a Zion house in every country, ideally, in every country that we can. Right now, we're starting with Portugal, Argentina, and Nigeria. But looking
What's
to
a Zion
rapidly grow
House?
that. So sorry about that. Zion House is like starting off as like a small community, but then growing up into like a complete co-working space that is localized in each of these house places. And so
Nice.
yeah, and we're seeing a lot of success in a lot of these regions. And so for anyone out there who thinks that they would be good at running a potential Zion house, definitely I think that would be something to keep up with. But
I
like
mean, if you want one in Colombia, let me know.
honestly, that would actually be really interesting.
There's
We have one in Argentina, but yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of competition for it here, and there's quite a craving for
That's what I'm
Web3.
saying. I mean that is what we find all the time. And like, we were going to start in San Francisco where a CTO is, but it's like a huge competition, but it's like there's a very big difference between San Francisco and let's say Colombia, where like the value of an American bank account is just like goes by the wayside, and which is just such a huge motion of crypto. Is like no, you don't need an American bank account, and I'm in America. I don't really know what it's like to not have an American bank account, and you don't really build for that. And so it's like that first time that you get a global level. But honestly, like I'm not just talking out of my ass. I think that would actually be really exciting. And I mean, dude, I love Colombia. I went to Medellin and Cartagena back when the ETH stuff was there, and then Cosmoverse back in I think 23. And it was like I fell in
Yeah,
love
I
with
was
that
there at
space.
Cosmoverse too. I was
Yeah.
actually we were actually doing the podcast in a back room and interviewing
Oh,
people.
really? That was the Atom 2.0 failure.
Yeah. That was a little embarrassing to watch, but
It was sad.
yeah,
That was like the bottom of the market too. ETH was
yeah.
higher than it is right now.
I know what a weird market we're in. But yeah, man, Colombia is fantastic. One thing I always find, very fascinating is, you're a 3-hour flight away and I can be in the US and I have probably like 10 different bank accounts for different things, whether it's personal or for business. Like it's so easy and fluid and the infrastructure is so good. And you hop on a plane and you fly 3 hours to Colombia and most people barely have a savings account. And it's like there's this huge gap in infrastructure. And I think that's partially why people really love Web3 down here so much. And there's such a big software and tech scene because people kind of want those innovations. Like there's this quantum leap ahead of some of the infrastructure that we have in first world countries that doesn't exist here. And that's why everyone has a smartphone, but most people probably don't have a laptop. Like it's kind of a weird thing. Um, but it's also, I think, what drives some of that curiosity towards the space, and again, what makes it such a good opportunity maybe for a Zion house here in Colombia and Medellin. If you ever want help with that, let me know. Happy
I
to
honestly will. I
facilitate
will
something.
message you right after this. I promise. That's actually, again, like it's something that's important. It's honestly the most important thing. And it's like, for us, the number of Web3 devs are declining rapidly, right? And like, it's very unfortunate because most of the time, like it's really really hard to work with Web3 devs when we're not going to be able to outspend Solana. Um, you know, we're not going to be able to outspend Sui. And give those like $8 million grants. But like a lot of it is when we do have someone like some of our earlier projects do come from Solana because they're like, we tried to build here, we couldn't, which was exactly what happened to me and why I started Zion in the first place. And effectively, like, effectively, it's this idea that we need to create devs, we need to bring Web2 devs into Web3. Otherwise, like, because then you get these different type of people that you build for as well, where it's like, you know, people want people want to say connect my wallet. It's like because that's what they're used to. People want the wallet, they want the jargon, they want all this, and it's just like, dude, what the fuck? It's like just build a good application, and it's like, well, I'm gonna launch a token. It's like, well, okay.
You brought up a good point though with the Web3 developers and starting to see kind of a drop off there. I've noticed it too. Do you think that's largely just because of the complexity in the space, or is there a salary gap issue, or what do you think is kind of causing that?
Well, I mean, I think that there's not been anything new, right? Like, I've seen a million different dexes. I've seen a million perpetual markets. I've seen a million NFT marketplaces. I have not seen anything new. And we're working on it, but it's like, when you're trying to be like, you know, oh, with a lending borrowing protocol of like Mantle network. Like you're just a lending borrowing you're like that Buzz Lightyear meme in the it's like, oh, I do lending borrowing, and it's just like the 40 million other Buzz Lightyears in the in the aisle, and it's I think that gets depressing that it's like long enough of doing that, and like then the money dries out and you're gonna go to AI, right? Because you're just it's not innovation. It's kind of grifting in a way. And I don't mean to say like whoever's building lending borrowing on Mantle, I don't mean to say that you're grifting whatsoever. I don't mean that at all. But it's like, there are a lot of people who grant farm and go from L2 to hyped L2 in hope of an airdrop, and like that's the product market fit. Once you build for that, you think you're God until the token launches, and then you're on to the next hot L2 lending borrowing market, and just the cycle. And it's exhausting.
Yeah, and I think that's also probably why a lot of L2s in the space have struggled so much this cycle. There's so many of them, and it feels so unnecessary.
And I think that, like, especially as you just see, you're gonna have winners, right? Like, you're gonna have random winners too, and you're gonna have random losers too. Like, well, I'm like, wow, I'm surprised they did so bad. But like, I think, I will say bad is relative, right? Like, I want to see the applications being built, and you want to see where price is one thing. I can't really talk too much about price, but it's like price is very short term. But it's like we're gonna see in the next, now that we got the great reset of 2025 this week, we're gonna see who was telling the truth about actually onboarding an ecosystem. And it's like now that all the noise is gone of like pricing and everything, it's like that's the best fucking time to onboard an ecosystem. And like I'm biased and I'm a little excited because our whole thing is like we're making it so that people outside of crypto could use this. And this is not my first bear market. I know not to say this is a bear market, but it's like when the prices go down, less people use crypto, which is great for us.
What kind of market do you think we're in right now? I would argue we haven't even really entered a bull market at all,
I have
but I don't.
no fucking idea anymore, dude. I'm like, what the fuck is this market?
Yeah, my theory is I think the dollar is just too expensive still. I think this market has done really well when interest rates in the
Of
US
course,
are
a zero
low
interest rate
because
environment. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the money flows a lot faster and it's cheaper for people to borrow and to invest into risk off assets. Not saying everything in crypto is risky, but it is very volatile, so there's a larger degree of risk.
When you have a
And
high
so I
risk
think
free rate, it's like,
yeah,
why would I put it into risky?
and so I think there's a lot of global economic factors there that are probably suppressing the market. And I think it's more like a delayed onset in this cycle. And I think we will see something sooner rather than later. But it is very weird. It is not the same as it has been in prior cycles.
The thing that I can feel, if you've been here probably for long enough, is what I feel right now was how I felt when Trump was tweeting about the North Korea situation, which is like prices are going down because everyone's like, Trump's doing something bad, and then prices rip right after because it's like, oh, it's fine, everything worked out. Like, I hope that's what happens, but like that, like gut feeling in my stomach of like what like macros fucked, which leads to this because of some global issue, reminds me very heavily of Trump back in the day with North Korea. Emotion from an emotional perspective, I would say, and just like how I'm sentimentally viewing the market.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities to that and probably some direct correlations that could be drawn given how his past presidency went and how the market reacted into now. I mean, it's not entirely out of the picture that that is actually the case and things might take a turn over the next few months. And that's crypto for you.
Dude, of course. And it's like, and I think the federal the strategic reserve was overhyped, but then I also think that the fact that like the government effectively said, hey, we're not just gonna buy a shitload of Bitcoin and hold it forever, like that was a little bit dramatized of like how badly that went down, but it's the market.
Awesome, man. Hey, this has been a really good episode. I think we'd have a really good conversation. Where can people go to learn more about Xion for users if they want to check out the ecosystem, for developers if they want to get involved, they want to build something, where would you send these people?
I mean, first come to the Twitter, Burnt, or Twitter or the website, burnt.com, or Burnt Xion. We're all doing a bunch of fun shit. And yeah, I mean, for anyone, I know I'll message you kind of immediately right after this, talking about a Zion house, but we are setting them up rapidly, and we're very, very excited to kind of get that cooking. So yeah, I would say Twitter's the best place, and then from there follow into the Discord rabbit hole, and then you're kind of locked in after that. Sorry.
Awesome. Let's get cooking, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll put all the links in the description for the episode below so everyone can find everything super easily. Man, this has been great. I really do appreciate it. And let's keep in touch. I'm sure we'll have plenty of reason to jump on and do a part 2 some point here in the near future. So we'll
I'll
be in
probably
touch.
get an excuse to get to Medellin as soon as I can.
Absolutely. Come down. I'm waiting.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to you soon. Take care.
Talk soon. Peace.